Hello, my name is Candice Grubin. I am the Community Programs Manager for Parks Canada for the Pingo Canadian Landmark. Many people know the Pingos are really unique geological features, but not as many know how important they are to Inuvialuit as a navigational tool while traveling. The elders in Tuktoyaktuk have important knowledge and stories about what it was like growing up near and traveling through the Pingos. This year, we invited 3 Inuvialuit students from Mangelana School to interview their elders to capture some of that knowledge for the future.
Hi. My name is Billy Jacobson. I'm 88 years old, and I was born at Pierce Point. That's maybe 150 minutes east of here.
My name is Noel Raymond. I'm here from Kowikchuck. Been living here all my life, which is 72 years. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the Pingos, and we call them Pingos here in our American language. They're all known as Pingos in Inuvialuit.
Hi, I'm Julia Cockney. I lived most of my life in Tuck. We used to go across there with TCC. They used to hire 2 elders, maybe 2 skidoos and kids. We used to bring kids over there.
Yeah.
And by then I was the elder and I was too old to climb, but the kids would climb up there,
Yeah.
and slide down. They enjoyed themselves.
Do you know anyone who lived or traveled to or around the Pingos?
The only family that moved out of Tuck, his name was Bob Cockney and his wife Margaret. They had an adopted son called Andy, his grandson. They spent the winter in the woodpile right by the Pingo. They had a tent. And the whole winter, they stayed there. They get a visit from their grandchildren once in a while. But they lived in a little tent right by the big woodpile. Driftwood?
Yeah.
They live right there. So they don't have to haul wood. Old Bob Cockney.
Eileen Jacobson, born and raised in Tuktoyaktuk. I was raised here back in the day when we had no cell phones, no TV. Life was good.
I'm Catherine Mangelana from Tuktoyaktuk.
What memories do you have of the Pingos?
I remember each spring when growing up, my father was a trapper. So every spring he'd bring us around these little lakes. He used to hunt muskrats. We'd always look forward to our spring. Every spring come around, I think of the days we had out in the land with my dad, and it was special. Yeah.
I went to residential school when I was 4 years old with typhoid. I was the only one that survived that typhoid out of that family. I got picked up by the Lady of Lourdes, that schooner, our Roman Catholic schooner in Tuck. They were picking up kids all along the coast. I was one of them. I was grabbed for residential. They were trying to beat out the Anglicans. The Anglicans had a smaller schooner, so the Roman Catholics had a bigger schooner, so they got more kids.
Iona Raymond from Tuktoyaktuk. Well, we used to go to the Pingos just about every day a couple of years ago. We used to go for picnics over there. We used to climb it, and winter time we used to go sliding on it. My children.
I don't know if my brother Boogie ever told you a story about, I guess there was a hole in the middle or on the side, and they went in and crawled out by the side. But that's since collapsed.
Frank Pukiak used to tell us that he used to play in there, in that big one. He said when he was a young boy, there used to be a hole in there, and the kids used to go play in there. That hole is not there anymore. That Pingo caved in. So they were lucky, I guess.
From what I hear, I know there was weddings done there. Alice and Joseph got married there, and I think it was in the early 50s. So, and then they'd be a big family in Kitty. They'd always go by there to come to town for special occasions. You know, some of them walk. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I'm Leslie Kowikchuck from Chuck, originally from Sax Harbor, but I moved back 95. Ibiuk Pingo, it's the highest one of all in Canada anyways. I heard there's one bigger one than that one in Alaska, or no, in Russia.
When I was growing up, we used to go to the Pingos. My dad had a little skiff. He had a homemade skiff. And we'd go to the Pingos and go berry picking.
Whenever we go berry picking, it's the whole family involved. Even picnic goes with it. And by the time we're done, nighttime, Num num.
We used to walk there in springtime, when the weather's nice and warm, while there's still snow and ice on the land. We'd go there just to play around it, and walk up there and, say we were on top of Pingo. One year we were there as young boys. I had a friend that was younger than me. He was beside me and we were almost to the very top, must be about 150 feet up the air, up top. And somehow he misstepped way up there and he just started tumbling over. He tumbled all the way down, with all these lumps, that were, but he never seriously got hurt. Well, he must have been quite shook up, but there wasn't any serious hurt anywhere,
I know we used to go sliding down them too. Parents didn't have to worry about as long as we're home. Well, a lot of daylight that time, so we stayed out as long as we can.
Goose hunting time, I go there, and the geese always come by there pretty well.
I remember my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and me and my husband, we took a boat and we went over there for cranberries, blackberries. And as soon as we landed, my father-in-law made a fire, tea, and cooked fish right away. Me and Roy went around once, and a garbage bag, black garbage bag this big, we put half of it. There was so much berries there.
Being so small, I thought the ukpiks were like this big. A lot of cranberries there, might be some blueberries, and me picking the biggest ukpiks I could find.
I know when we travel around Husky Lake, the coastal area and way up north, it's just like a trail. You go from one Pingo, you know where you're going, you go the other way. And then if you know where you are, you make your own trail. And then you find your own creek, your own community, your own camp. But out in the ocean, you could easily tell when you travel by the ocean with ice, on ice, dog team or skidoo, you look amongst, you know where you are.
The Pingos are for markers for people, living around this whole area. They use that for landmarks for caribou hunting. Or were used as landmarks. There's a story about how these two Pingos were pretty prominent in how one man came from out in the ocean. He was a polar bear, before he became a human being. He was a polar bear and he was wondering, where can I find a human mother? So as he was out in the ice, he saw these two Pingos and he was using them for a landmark to come upon a human mother. And when he reached here, he became a human being, and his name was William Mangelana, our first chief of Kowikchuck. That was the story of how he used his Pingos as a landmark to find a mother. My father, my mother used to always tell us while we were traveling out on the ice, and coming toward Kowikchuck, and they always tell me every time the two Pingos line up, we're very close to home now. All the rest of the Pingos were are known as Pingos, but this Pingo was named Ibiuk. And I was always sorry I never asked my father or mother how the name came about. When I look at it, I think it could have meant Ibiok, a little different spelling, which means quite sick around after a few years. But that's how the name came about, I guess.
When times get tough, I like to just sit with the land, in the land, and just kind of get myself back together. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
If you ever need to go out, fix yourself up, go sit out there somewhere. It's healing.
Quyanainni.
Okay, thank you.
In about 60 years, we're gonna be on that chair.